Audio Jungle. Hi, I'm Bindu Bhatia, and today I have a very special guest talking about a topic which all of us are grappling with, which is productivity. So here we have Prakash Nair. Hi, Prakash. Thank you for being here in our detox today. And I'm personally very glad to have you here. Prakash has spent 30 plus years, guys, 30 plus years in the industry. He has worked as he's a hotel management graduate, and I know him from I think last 15 years easily, we can say, right, Prakash?
Yes,
So he's a very soft after um, leadership coach and a facilitator, and he has done sessions for almost all the Fortune 100. I mean, you just name it, and he has worked for them. So today we are very lucky, Prakash, to have you here on our show of Detox. And the whole objective of Detox is to reach out to as many people as we can and share whatever we can that will help them lead a better life. So today's topic is productivity. And over to you, Prakash. Welcome to the show again. And my question to all of to you is specifically to start with, why productivity hacks, and how is it so relevant today?
Bindu, firstly, a very good morning and thank you to giving me an opportunity to come on your show to invite me to the show and share my thoughts on this. As you said, very important, very relevant, and a very pertinent topic in today's times. All right. So first, before we move on to the productivity hacks part of it, I would like to answer the question: why is productivity important, and why is that we need to look at it today? So let's look at the challenges we face in today's world. A very interesting study shows that the amount of information which our forefathers who worked in the 70s, 80s, and 90s received in 10 years, that is a decade, the same amount of information we receive in just 72 hours.
Wow.
So today, we are literally having so much of information and 24/7 at our fingertips. Now, how do we take out and choose and select that important, relevant, and pertinent information, and then do the most important things of analyzing them, coming up with solutions, looking at what needs to be done, implementing them? Why do we have the time? We're literally overwhelmed. So that's the first challenge. Plus, our roles and jobs are changing, and that becomes even more. Every now and then we have to upgrade ourselves. The second part of this first challenge is that we are getting continually distracted because of this continuous bombardment. Again, another study shows that an employee today checks his email or her email every 7 minutes on an average. That means about 5 minutes is spent working on a task, 1 minute to switch, and 1 minute is checking onto the email. And then, of course, we all know once we check an email, we just get into the checking all the other mails and getting sidetracked. So that's the second part. The third one is that we are not having clarity about what we are supposed to do. And that leads to us ranking all the things which we need to do in the same order and in the same way. So this leads to us, first of all, having too many things to do, and secondly, not being able to do the things which are important. What happens is we mistake busyness for productivity. And thereby, even when we work 12, 14 hours, we are frustrated and overwhelmed at the end of the day. So those are the challenges which we need to look at, understand them, before we look at what are the hacks and how do these hacks help us.
I agree. And there are times, a lot of days when we end up doing so many things, busy, but then towards the end of the day, it just feels that I've wasted. And there is no real reason. I mean, I was busy the whole day. So very good pertinent points, and I can completely connect with it. So let's just quickly dive into the techniques, Prakash, and see what is it that we can do to manage this. And
So
whatever you're going to tell us, is this going to help only the professionals or anyone who's watching this video?
it is going to help anybody from any walk of life. Yes, I'm going to be sharing some examples, one or two examples probably from one particular field, but it applies to everybody, Bindu. And that has been my experience in my entire career of coaching and training.
Okay. And
So let's straight away dive into our first hack. So as it happened to all of us that we have gone to the supermarket with a neatly detailed list, we start picking things from the supermarket, especially now it's between only 6 and 10 a.m. in most cities, so we have to finish everything. And at that point in time in our mind, one voice pops up and says, hey, you did not send that mail. You did not finish the report. You have not made the call. And then you become anxious and stressed out. You try to complete the rest of your shopping. When you come back home, either you find out or your spouse gives you an earful saying that I gave you a list and you still missed out 2, 3 things. This happens to me most of the time earlier. So why does this happen? Once we tell ourselves that we need to do something, any task, whether it is trivial or important, our brain just takes it as an order, an instruction. It cannot differentiate. It just says, okay, this has to be done. Now, our brain does not have an organized, linear way of storing and retrieving things. So what happens? It will randomly pick up whatever you told it in any some order and probably at the most inappropriate time and remind you. That is why throughout the day, when you're doing one thing, the brain, that voice in our head will pop up and say, hey, Prakash, you're supposed to do this. Why didn't you do this?
that is so annoying, right? You're working on this thing, and then there is another email that I need to write, another proposal that I need to send, and it's all hovering over the mind. Yes, I can totally connect, and I'm sure our viewers can also connect with this. So
It,
yeah, I
it
totally.
happens to everybody, Bindu, everybody.
So what do we do about it?
And we also have to remember, because of this, our energy and attention and focus is being constantly drawn away and it becomes an effort. That is why we get more easily tired and frustrated. So what do we do about it? I got this hack from the book, Getting Things Done by David Allen. And what he says is that capture everything. Whatever you want to do, write it down. Whenever that voice in your mind pops up and says you have to do something, make sure you write it down. One very important thing to remember when you are writing it down is that do not have too many systems for capture. You have one on your phone, one on your laptop, one list written somewhere, one is with somebody else. Because then again, your brain is going to see, oh, you're not looking at that list, and it will keep on popping and drawing it.
Oh,
Yeah. So make sure that you have one or maybe two lists which you're going to refer to so that you can tell your brain, hey, relax. Yeah, you don't have to worry about it. And please remember, our brain can either hold information or do the creative part of it, which is analyzing problems, coming up with ideas, solutioning, problem solving, all that. Now, our brain's working memory can hold 4 to 7 pieces of information at a time. If you're going to bombard it and load it up with so many things to do, you are going to find that it's not unable to perform. And that is why, one, your creativity is affected, and also you keep forgetting so many things. So that is something. So please remember this statement: mindful, which is MINDFULL. Your mind is full of 101 things to do, versus mindful, where the full has only one L. Yeah, you are very clear about what you have to do, and the rest everything is in this system. So your brain is at peace and it leaves you alone. That's the first hack, Bindu.
so basically what you're saying is, if you want to stop these annoying noises, all we need to do is just put everything that comes to your mind on a piece of paper, all the things that are worrying you, the task, the little big whatever task it is, just dump it at one place and the noise will stop.
Yes, it will come down significantly, and you will find after a period of time it completely stops because it is seeing that you have a system to deal with it.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to do that for sure, and let's see
Yes.
how it happens and what happens. But thank you so much, that's a great hack. If that works, awesome, and I don't doubt that it won't work. We are hearing from a person who has 3 decades of experience, guys, so let's not even think about it won't work. So okay, so you have shared with us one hack, and I think it's pretty powerful. Now next one.
The second one follows from the first one. So this capturing things, what I do is in my training and coaching sessions, which I've conducted hundreds of them so far, I tell all the middle level managers, the senior leaders who attend these sessions to do it as an activity then and there. And I ask them to list down all the things which are there in your mind right now, which you have told yourself you have to do. And the minimum number is 80.
Wow. Okay. So this is like the
Senior
first
leaders,
that we talked about, brain dump. So just write whatever
everything.
activity that's in your mind.
And some executives go up to 150. Now, how do you manage to do 80 things in a way, most of it which is quite complex? Forget about 140, 150. So then comes the second hack, which James Clear, the author of many best-selling books, notably Atomic Habits, calls as the number one productivity hack, which is saying no. So one interesting anecdote, Warren Buffett, the billionaire investor, world renowned for his investing strategies, also called the Oracle of Omaha, was once asked by his longtime pilot, Mr. Buffett, what should I do to achieve my life's goals? I'm struggling. Warren Buffett tells him, please go write down the top 25 goals for yourself. The pilot does that, comes back. Then Buffett tells him, now strike off 20 and keep only the top 5. The pilot says, how can I? This itself, I found it so difficult. You're asking me to now take off. No, I can't do it. Buffett says, nothing doing. And he didn't even look at the list. He just said, nothing doing, only top 5. Go and do it. The pilot comes back after 4 days of struggle and says, I have 5. Great. Then Buffett asks him, what are you going to do with the remaining 20 which you're stuck out? No, I'll work on it here and there sometime when I'm free, this, that. Warren Buffett says, nothing doing. That's 20 goes into the trash bin. It's only the 5. So you have to choose really what are the most important things in your life, because one, you don't have time for everything. Secondly, if you don't work us in a focused, consistent, disciplined manner, we are not going to be achieving. We are just going to, as you correctly said, Bindu, work 12, 14 hours and still feel frustrated, overwhelmed. Have I achieved anything? That is going to keep popping up in our mind. So saying no is the number one productivity hack.
Okay, so let me clarify a couple of points here, Prakash. So I know that I've understood it clearly. So we're not talking about tasks here. What we are talking about is the goals.
Yes.
Difference between tasks, there's a difference between goals. So what you're saying is that list down all the goals that you have in your life and then boil it down to like 5 top, even better 3 or 2 on top.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then you know that only the tasks related to those 2, 3 goals are the most important ones in your life, and you have
Absolutely.
successfully prioritized it. Oh wow, okay, so that helps. Now, we're talking about people in all spheres of life, right? Now think about people who are homemakers. Now, for them, everything is important. Whatever they're doing is important. And so what do they say no to? And even for something, someone who is working at an office and for an organization, and so there are a lot of goals that organizations pour on him, so he doesn't have a choice to say no.
Absolutely.
So what do we do?
Very correct. A homemaker, an entrepreneur, their lives are even more hectic and ability to manage many things important. Or at work, you cannot say no to client mails, bosses requests, which can be conflicting and all are important at the same time. So saying no is difficult. So once you have said no, yes, all of us are going to be left with still a significant number of things to do. So that is when we need to look at the third hack, which is deciding what to do and what is that we can let go, probably do later and probably not do, because after a certain point in time, it's not relevant. So in this, I would like to share a very important framework, which was actually named after Eisenhower, the famous US general, but popularized by Stephen Covey in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective
That's
People.
one of my favorite books.
Yes, yes, with so many important, not just tips, I would say, principles of living so that you have very productive, very satisfying lives.
Yes,
So
I
very
took a lot of
simple.
excerpts from Gita. In,
Yes, yes, yes. So many
so
relevant.
everyone working or non-working professional who's watching this video, please do read this book. It's a life hack, guys. It's a life hack. I have implemented so many techniques there. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Awesome, awesome book. But sorry, Prakash, over to you.
No, no, I totally agree with you and totally second your suggestion, Bindu. I think it is a must read. It's life changing. And just one tip, the first time you read, it's actually a lot to take in. Please keep it next to your bedside like I do and read from it time to time. You will find that it becomes like a Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, whichever it is. It is as important as that. That's one. Now, the second thing is that how do we now do it? How do we prioritize? What does this framework talk about? It's very simple. Urgent and important tasks fall into one quadrant and they need to be done immediately. They are urgent and important. You don't have a choice. So either you do it or you find somebody else to do it. So you make a to-do list and you ensure that these lists are put at the top and you are addressing them. Do it or find somebody to do it. That's the first part. The second thing, do all of us have that maybe that particular hobby which we've been wanting to work on for quite some time? Something new we wanted to learn, some project at work which we have been putting off, but the timeline is nearing, something in our personal lives which we wanted to address, call up that friend, do this. All of us have one, isn't it? And we keep putting it off because it is someday, and someday is a dangerous word.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So there's no timeline attached to it, but we know it's important for the long term. Someday I will write a book, someday yeah, I totally understand that.
And it happens. Someday we will start saving, someday we will start exercising. And the important point to remember is that one day that important but not urgent will move into urgent and important.
Yes.
And we already have so many things which are there in that. How are you now going to keep adding? We should look at removing. So look at what are those really important things for you and start scheduling them. They also have to be there in a calendar. When I work with senior leaders, the first thing I ask them is, if you could, without the confidentiality issues, show me a calendar for the next 3 months and ask them to point out what is important, what is their goals, how is it reflected. And if I tell them, they tell me it's not there, I tell them then it's not going to happen. So that's the second part. And I would like to add 2 more steps to this particular part. It's again from another book, again by a famous author, Brian Tracy, which is Eat the Frog.
Hmm.
What does this mean? The frog stands for the most difficult and maybe the not so preferred task. And we tend to put it off later during the day. And then we suddenly find we
Number
neither have
one
that.
reason for procrastination. I'm not sure
Number one.
research, but yeah, for my procrastination, if it's too difficult, too heavy, for me, that's number one reason. Okay, I'll do it later. But then, yeah, I totally understand.
True, true, Bindu, and that's there for every one of us. All right. But as Brian Tracy says very correctly, if you can do that first thing in the morning and you can develop it as a habit, it becomes easier, he says. He says the rest of the day goes easy because nothing is as difficult as the first task in the day. The third part to this is the amount of physical and mental energy we have. Earlier, I used to make the mistakes of writing down the list of tasks in linear fashion, pretty much in the order they come to my mind, and say that, okay, throughout the day, I'll work like a machine. I work like a robot, but we are not. And here, I would like to share one very interesting anecdote. Have you seen leaders like Mark Zuckerberg, the late Steve Jobs, or President Obama? They all pretty much had a uniform. They'll just wear the same color or 2 colors. So once in an interview, President Barack Obama was asked as to why he wore only 2 colors of suit, 2 shades of colors of suits, even though being the president of one of the most powerful country or the most powerful country in the world. His answer was, I have a finite amount of physical and mental energy every day. Now, if I get up in the morning and look at my 16 suits and spend precious physical and mental energy in deciding what suit to wear. And then I go on, I have to decide what breakfast do I eat. There are 101 options. Then I decide on where to sit, what to do. If I'm going to expend my energy on all these trivial matters, when it comes to 3 or 4 in the evening, and I am required to take a very important decision which could affect millions of my countrymen or billions of people in the world, I might not have the required mental and physical energy and might land up taking a poor decision. So I automate all these trivial tasks so that I don't expect energy. Secondly, I also know when my physical and mental energy peaks and lows are. So I use that accordingly. And if I may give a simple example, which is relevant to all of us, the 1 hour after lunch is invariably downtime for most of us.
Oh, yeah. The lunch
So,
grows on us. Yes.
so I used to earlier schedule the time as normal time and be very unproductive. Waste of time. That 1 hour used to be wasted because my mind and my body is just not up to it. So now I shifted all those tasks which demand quite an amount of effort, thought, analysis, or solutioning. I have shifted that to post 3:30. And from 2 or 2:15, 2:30 onwards, I make all these short calls, catching up on things, finding out what's happening and all that. And I look at making sure that I spend most of the time walking up and down or standing.
Okay, so that's interesting. So what we're saying here is, Prakash, that identify what is the most productive time for you. So personally, for me, the most productive time is 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. And I've been doing it intuitively, but I can very, very well connect with you that there are some time periods in the day when I know that my productivity is low. And what you're saying is that or productivity is low as in my energy is low to give that much time, and that is the time when I should schedule all those small little easier things.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so that's a good tip. Thank you, Prakash. So which
And
hack are we in? Are we still in the third hack?
the third hack, yes. So,
Okay.
yeah. So the third hack, the statement to remember is, it is not about managing time. It is about managing yourself. Time is the same 24 hours in a day for everybody. So it is about managing self. All right. So we are done with hack number 3. And if you look at it, capturing everything, saying no to many of those things, whatever we are unable to say no, which has to be done, looking at prioritizing them accordingly, making sure that the most important priorities are addressed. Then also looking at how do we make the best use of our own physical and mental energies, and how do we motivate ourselves by doing the most difficult task as early as possible in the
So
day.
I'm already feeling so sorted right now, Prakash, and I'm really looking forward to fourth and fifth. And what is that extra thing over and above that? I mean, even if we are able to do these three things, it can really sort out a lot of stuff. So yes, what's the fourth one? I can't wait to hear.
So the fourth one is what Carl Newport, who's the author of the book Deep Work, defines as the ability to do deep, complex work without distractions. The ability to work on very demanding, cognitively demanding tasks without distractions. And that is a lovely anecdote in that, which I very much want to share. So Peter Shankman is an author and an entrepreneur. He has a couple of business interests and he also writes books. So once he was struggling to write a manuscript, the first draft for a book, whereas he had already committed to his publishers, he will do it. So 2-3 months he struggled. And then he found out he had a 2-week deadline. Now, how can you write it in 2 weeks when you have not done it in 2-3 months? So what he did, he booked a return business class flight ticket from the city he was in the US to Tokyo. He
Okay.
got onto the flight. He traveled all the way to Tokyo. When the flight landed at Tokyo, got out, walked up to the terminal, stretched his leg, had an espresso, got onto the very next flight within an hour, and traveled all the way back to the same city. He didn't do anything else. He didn't step out of the terminal. The flight was for 30 hours and cost him 4,000 US dollars. However, he wrote continuously on the flight. When we landed back at his hometown, he had finished the first draft.
Wow. Okay.
So the lesson from that is that even things like complex things like writing a book, which requires so much of thought, effort, writing, rewriting, drafting, and all that, can be accomplished if you are able to work without distractions.
Hmm.
So during the day, look at what are those important tasks. It might be this important project you're working on. It might be a new initiative you're coming up with. It might be that you're solving this complex problem. Or at home, homemakers, you're looking at something to do with changing the way your quality of life is, or you want to make some changes in your life. Entrepreneurs is looking at how all those complex, cognitively demanding tasks, they require significant periods of focused time. And in this book, he talks about so many successful people, and they all have one common thing, which is they shut themselves out without distractions for significant periods of time. So look at, if you're struggling to finish those very critical, very important, demanding, complex tasks in your life, look at blocking out 2 to 3 hours a day and working so that you're not distracted at all. So for example, when I'm working on content, which requires quite some amount of thinking, thought, and research and study, I switch off my phone and keep it in another room.
Hmm.
And I just sit and I tell everybody, it's like, please do not disturb me unless it's an emergency. Please do not come into the room. It's an emergency, please come. So that's what we need to look at. So that is deep work. And this thing to remember from this is that your ability to focus actually does not depend on what you're doing. It depends on what you're not doing. That is getting continuously distracted and running around other things. So what you're not doing is actually what this ability to focus, pay attention, and work on important things is matters. And that is deep work, the fourth hack Bindu.
Very nice. I think this one is, and there could be like thousands of questions from the viewers as well, and I'm just going to put it across. And that is that not everyone is lucky enough to be able to block themselves out. I mean, I might have a client on the phone, I might have an urgent call from my boss. I can't afford to miss all of that just because I am blocking the time for myself. So how do we handle that, and how do we make it possible?
Yes. So one is that if you're not able to find work during a regular hours, look at using the other times such that you can work on it. Especially when it comes to our personal lives, that time can be perfectly used. Secondly, things like our self-development, they are too important to be left for someday.
Hmm.
Or you could be even working on a project which can make a significant difference at work. These are very important. So if at all you need to stretch, look at stretching for these things which make a significant impact. Not stretching and finding that it does not make any great difference.
If you are stretching, stretch for things that are important for you. They might not be urgent, but that are important for you. I totally get that. And I would just want to share with the viewers a couple of techniques that I've also used in this space. And I didn't know that it was a hack, but then I talked about the evening time, 10 to 1. So that's the time that is me time at my home, and I just ensure that I'm blocked now. And now I realize, yeah, I've been doing that, and because my concentration, my focus is the maximum at that point, no distractions, nothing. But one thing that has really helped is a very interesting concept that I learned, which was contracting.
Mm.
Even if I plan to spend 2 hours in a day on some project which I know will last for 10 days, I do announce to everyone who needs me I do announce and I do say that, see, this period, 10 to 2, I'm blocking myself out. Or like you said, right? It's a mental, it's a psychological contracting with people that, if I'm not answering your calls, it is not because I don't want to or I don't like you. It is because I'm working on something very important. So only if it is very urgent, please call me. Or maybe changing the ringtones on the phone and have those special ringtones for your bosses and some important people. So you know that, okay, this one I have to pick up. So those are some of the very small little hacks I've been using. But now I realize it's time blocking for the deep work.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you, Prakash.
and Carl Newport says that this ability to do deep work is becoming the most important skill in today's world and will continue for the next few years. And it is also becoming an increasingly rare skill because we are also distracted. 7 minutes, we check an email. How are we going to spend 2 hours, 3 hours, which is going? An interesting study again done for people between the ages of 18 and 20. How many times do they pick up their phones? It's up to 150 times a day.
Wow.
And let's say 15 hours is our waking time. We're fully awake, we are looking at it. That means 10 times in an hour, which means every 6 minutes we are picking up the phone. When are we going to get this work done, the deep work? So we have to lock ourselves up. We have to make sure that we find that time. And again, I repeat, it is managing ourselves. So it goes back to one, saying no. You have to say no. There will be some consequences, but you have to look at that benefit and cost analysis and see which is important. And then, of course, the priorities. Anyway, at the end of the day, you have 10, 15 things left and you're feeling frustrated. Why not let those things be the less important things so that the consequences and benefits, whichever, they far outweigh what it is. So rather than working 12, 14 hours and feeling frustrated and overwhelmed and that someday is always there, do it such that end of the day you feel, I at least did the most important things and I've also done all the urgent things, which
In
is
Stephen Covey language, the big rocks.
big rocks. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Super.
So
Okay. So I'm waiting for the fifth hack, Prakash. What is the fifth one?
all right. So God created us in this particular physical structure, gave us all these mental faculties and all that. However, we have managed to add on one appendage, one organ to ourselves, which is our smartphones. It has literally become a part of our body. And it's something, like I said, the young people pick it up 150 times a day. So
I'm young. Yeah.
mine was about 150. When I read this, I immediately started. So it's now come down to around 100 bindu. So I have to shamefacedly admit that I was there before. So it is, as you very correctly said, maybe not just, restricted to young people. Maybe all of us are guilty. And then,
Oh, yeah,
probably.
yeah. Not guilty, but then I see my parents hooked to phone. I see a lot of times, so many people. So every one of us are sitting together, but no one's talking. The sad part is we're just looking at phone. So yeah, I know what you. That's a sad reality that is getting built in.
So what do we need to do? Because this device is there, we need the device. It is extremely useful, and actually, in a way, it is a contraindication. It is no paradox. The device helps us to do more things more efficiently and effectively. At the same time, it is also, drawing our attention, focus away, and making us unproductive at times. So what do we do? One of the first things which I tried and worked for me brilliantly is that removing the number of apps. So other than the apps which I used very often and for the most important things, the rest all the apps, and I think I must have removed about 22 apps at one shot. And I intend to continue doing that exercise because I found so much great value in it. So that's the first part. The second thing which I find is both whether it is working in a focused manner or doing deep work is shutting off all notifications.
Oh yes, including Outlook, the
Everything.
email notifications. Yeah.
that ping, when it comes, we are so wired to immediately go check and pick it up and see it. We need that small hit of dopamine in our brains from time to time. So we keep on looking at it. Otherwise, it is FOMO. Something is happening in my world and I'm missing out.
Hmm.
Or it is like, what is with some important call, important this
Yeah,
one, all
absolutely.
that. So we keep on checking it. So look at first switching off notification, both the sounds and the badges or the banners. So when you look at your phone, it doesn't show anything. It is only the calls which are there. That's first part. Then the next step is to do is when you want to do this deep work, like I said earlier, switch off the phone, go and keep it in another room and look at working for it. If people are finding that quite terrifying to listen to, about 25, 30 years ago, we didn't have mobile phones, and I think everybody managed quite well.
Yeah, we managed to survive.
Survive. Yes.
Absolutely.
We got through many
But
things.
these
So,
days, if you ask people to switch off the phone and keep it in the other room, you're the biggest villain in their lives.
well, and it's terrifying for them. But maybe yes, you can't do it for 1 hour at a time initially. Always break it down into small steps, by 15 minutes,
Yeah,
30 minutes,
yeah,
and then slowly build up so that you find that it is going. The
yeah.
third thing which I did and worked brilliantly for me is that getting a regular phone, not a smartphone.
Oh,
And
okay.
whenever I want to do some smart folk, I'll just forward all the calls to this number and keep this phone alone next to me. And the thing which you had discussed, Bindu, is that putting particular ringtones for the most important people whom calls I might need to take. I can't avoid it.
Hmm.
So putting particular ringtones for those calls so that only those calls come up, so that I still don't miss out on
That's
those
a very
important calls.
interesting point. Take a regular normal phone, not the smartphone, so that you don't miss the calls at least, but then you're not distracted either. Prakash, what really brought a big change, and I would
Hmm.
definitely want to share this with the viewers, a big change in, and this is very latest, right? I knew that we are handicapped. I mean, I felt handicapped without the phone in my hand. It's like, part of your body. My daughter is away for 2 hours, 3 hours to study. That's fine, but then phone, I can't even imagine, and that is such a sad thing. So, I saw this Netflix series.
Hmm.
Not even series. It's on Netflix. It's called The Social Dilemma. I suggest anyone who feel that they are playing, who feel that they are in that habit and they're not able to deal with that habit of watching your phone, you must go and watch this Netflix. I don't even know what to call it, but then it's a documentary, I think. So, The Social Dilemma. And that is when I realized that all these applications, all that we are doing is actually programmed to distract us. They are programmed to program us to watch our phone every 7 minutes. So that's when I realized that I'm not going to succumb to that. So yes, and thank you, Prakash, for bringing that up. Absolutely.
I too did, and thank you for quoting that example, Bindu. That documentary, again, a must watch, and it was actually very one on one hand terrifying and one on very mortifying to know that we are actually puppets.
Yeah, yeah, it's very true. No matter,
Yes,
and forget about us, our kids are becoming addicted, and that is not because of anything else but the way it is being programmed in the phone. We are all working from home, our kids are studying from home, we cannot really imagine them being without their tabs or phones, right? Fine, that is fair enough, but then watch this and take decision on your own. So yeah, let's say all of us are responsible for our own actions, but we are here to help people know what are the nuances, and if you want to help yourselves. So Prakash, are the five things done? Do you have any other
yes. Just
golden.
5 things. Just one small tip for this keeping off social media and the smartphone is that schedule the time for social media also on your to-do list. It makes it a lot easier that you look at your time and say, okay, at that time is when I'm going to do it. So it will help you get through 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes and say, okay, at at this time, I am going to spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes on social media. So let me not look at it every 7 minutes, every 10 minutes. It does make a difference in the
Oh,
sense it
absolutely.
increases.
And to go one step ahead, I've also started rewarding myself that, okay, now that I have done this work, I earned 1 hour of social media, so I'm only going to do that without any guilt. So yes, these are some of the cool hacks. And now talking to you, I'm realizing, okay, so yes, I'm sure a lot of you are using it, and a lot of you want to experiment with few of the techniques. So, with that note, Prakash, I cannot thank you enough for this lovely, lovely detox. I'm sure people will mentally want to detox. And I hope viewers, you really liked it and you're taking away at least 1 or 2 things that you want to practice. So, please write the comment, what part did you like the most? Like and subscribe our channel if you really liked it and you thought that this will help. Share it with others. The intent is to help people detox. So with that note, Prakash, thank you so much for this lovely, lovely talk.